When a racist CEO thought he could humiliate a black Marine by firing him over a $1 million deal, he never imagined 6 Navy SEALs would walk into his boardroom and turn his world upside down without firing a single shot. Marcus Ellison, a decorated Marine veteran, thought he'd secured his family's future with a life-changing contract at a prestigious Dallas tech firm. But when the CEO, driven by prejudice, ripped it all away in front of a room full of executives, Marcus stood his ground. What happened next wasn't just a showdown. It was a masterclass in dignity, loyalty, and the kind of silent strength that leaves an entire city speechless. And when his old SEAL brother stepped in, the truth about power and justice was laid bare for all to see. Before we dive into this powerful story of standing tall against discrimination, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. If this tale of a Marine father refusing to bow to injustice resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe to Narratives of Black Struggles for more stories exposing the raw truths of racial inequity in America. Your support keeps these narratives alive. Picture a crisp Dallas morning, the kind where the skyline gleams and the air hums with ambition. Marcus Ellison, a man who'd faced war zones and worse, stepped into a glass-walled boardroom expecting to seal a deal that would change his life. But what he didn't know was that the real battle wasn't about contracts. It was about respect. Let's step into Chapter 1, where it all begins. Marcus Ellison adjusted the cuffs of his Navy blazer as he stepped off the elevator onto the 42nd floor of the Sterling Tech headquarters. The Dallas skyline stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, all sharp angles and glittering glass. But Marcus didn't pause to admire it. His focus was razor-sharp, the kind honed over a decade in the Marines and years before that surviving streets where hesitation could cost you everything. At 38, he stood 6'2", broad-shouldered, with a calm that could quiet a room. His polished loafers clicked softly on the marble floor, and a manila folder in his hand held a contract worth $1 million, a software deal he'd spent 6 months crafting. He'd driven from his modest Arlington home that morning, the radio off, the silence filled only by the hum of his 2012 Ford F-150. In the passenger seat sat a small, worn photo tucked into the visor. His wife, Lena, laughing with their daughter, Amara, at her 5th birthday party. Lena had been gone 3 years now, taken by cancer, but Marcus still carried her with him, especially on days like this. "We're almost there," he'd whispered to the photo before slipping it into his breast pocket. This deal wasn't just money. It was Amara's college fund, a new start, a promise kept. The receptionist, a young woman with a tight smile, glanced up as he approached. "Mr. Ellison, they're ready for you in the boardroom." Her eyes lingered on his face, then darted away. Marcus nodded, catching the flicker of something, curiosity, maybe judgment. He was used to it. A black man in a tailored suit still turned heads in places like this, even in 2025. The boardroom doors swung open, and Marcus stepped into a space that screamed wealth. A long mahogany table, leather chairs, and a massive screen displaying the Sterling Tech logo. 8 executives sat around the table, all white, mostly male, their expressions ranging from bored to mildly curious. At the head was Victor Caldwell, the CEO, mid-50s, silver hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Caldwell had a reputation for ruthlessness cloaked in charm. Marcus had met him twice before, both times brief, both times leaving him with a gut feeling he couldn't. Grimacing, Marcus shook it off. Focus, he told himself. This was his moment. "Gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice steady. "Thank you for having me. My proposal integrates AI-driven analytics into your supply chain, cutting costs by 15% and boosting efficiency. The numbers are in your packets." He slid the manila folder across the table, watching as a few executives flipped through it, nodding. Caldwell leaned back, arms crossed, his face unreadable. The presentation went smoothly. Marcus was prepared, his slides crisp, his answers to questions sharp. He'd anticipated every angle, from scalability to cybersecurity. By the end, the room was buzzing with low murmurs of approval. One executive, a balding man named Peterson, even clapped lightly. "Impressive work, Ellison. This could be a game changer." Caldwell cleared his throat, and the room stilled. "It's ambitious," he said, his tone clipped. "But ambition isn't execution. We've had concerns about your firm's capacity to deliver." The words landed like a jab, unexpected and sharp. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. "My firm's delivered on every contract we've signed," Marcus replied, meeting Caldwell's gaze. "Our track record's in the packet. 99% client satisfaction, 0 missed deadlines." He paused, letting the number speak. "If there's a specific concern, I'm happy to address it." Caldwell smirked, leaning forward. "It's not about numbers, Marcus. It's about fit. This is a high-stakes deal, and we need someone we can trust to represent Sterling's brand." The word trust hung in the air, heavy with implication. Marcus felt the room shift, the executive's eyes darting between him and Caldwell. Peterson shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Fit," Marcus repeated, his voice low but firm. "I've spent 6 months tailoring this proposal to your needs. My team's ready to execute tomorrow. If fit is code for something else, let's put it on the table." The room went quiet. Caldwell's smirk faded, replaced by a glint of irritation. "Don't play that card," he said, his voice cold. "This isn't personal. It's business. Your firm's small, untested at this scale. We're passing." Marcus's pulse quickened, but his face remained a mask. He'd heard this before, different words, same meaning. Too black, too bold, too much like he didn't know his place. He thought of Lena, of Amara, of the photo in his pocket. "With respect," he said, "my firm's size hasn't stopped us from outperforming companies twice our scale. You know that. So what's the real issue?" Caldwell stood, his chair scraping loudly. "The issue," he snapped, "is I don't need to justify my decisions to you. You're done here. Security will show you out." He pressed a button on the intercom, and the door opened. 2 guards in black polos stepped in, radios crackling. Marcus didn't move. He stared at Caldwell, his mind racing, but his body still, the way it had been in Fallujah when bullets flew and decisions meant life or death. The executives froze, some looking away, others staring at the table. Peterson opened his mouth to speak, but thought better of it. The guards hesitated, sensing the tension. Marcus's voice cut through the silence, calm but unyielding. "I'm not leaving until you say it plain. Why are you pulling this deal?" Caldwell's face reddened. "You want plain? Fine. I don't think you belong here. This company's image matters, and you don't fit it. Happy now?" The words were slap, raw and unfiltered. The room gasped, but Marcus didn't flinch. He'd heard worse, felt worse. What stung was knowing Amara's future was on the line. Before he could respond, a low voice came from the doorway. "That's a mistake, Caldwell." Every head turned. A man stood there, tall, grizzled, with a salt and pepper beard and eyes that could cut steel. Marcus knew him instantly. Creed Marston, a Navy SEAL who'd fought beside him in the dust of Kandahar. And behind Creed, 5 more figures stepped into view, their presence filling the room like a storm rolling in. Marcus hadn't seen Creed Marston in 6 years, not since a quiet beer at a VFW hall in San Antonio. But the man standing in the doorway was unmistakable. Same squared shoulders, same unflinching stare. The other 5 men behind him were just as familiar. Javier Meeks, Zachary Wells, Enrique Soto, Lim Carter, and Devin Horton. Navy SEALs, every one, bonded to Marcus by blood and fire. They weren't in uniform, just jeans and button-downs, but their posture screamed discipline. The boardroom, moments ago a battlefield of egos, now felt small under their gaze. Caldwell blinked, caught off guard. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded, his voice less steady now. The guard shifted, hands hovering near their radios, but they didn't move. Something about the 6 men told them to stay put. Creed stepped forward, his boots heavy on the polished floor. "We're the men who know exactly who Marcus Ellison is," he said, his voice low, deliberate. "And we're here to make sure you understand what you're throwing away." He didn't raise his voice, didn't need to. The weight of his words landed like a grenade. Marcus's chest tightened, not with fear, but with something deeper, gratitude, maybe, or the kind of pride that comes from knowing you're not alone. He hadn't called them. He hadn't even told them about the deal. But they were here, just like they'd been in Kandahar when an IED flipped their convoy and Marcus dragged Creed from the wreckage, bullets tearing through the air. That day, Marcus had saved 3 of them, Creed, Soto, and Wells, while keeping the others covered. They'd never forgotten, and neither had he. Flashback, Kandahar, 2012. The sun was a furnace, the sand a gritty haze. Marcus, then a Marine Staff Sergeant, was leading a joint op with a SEAL team. The mission was simple: escort a supply convoy, but nothing stayed simple in war. The IED hit without warning, flipping the lead Humvee into a twisted heap. Gunfire erupted, precise and relentless. Marcus didn't hesitate. He sprinted through open ground, pulling Creed from the burning wreck, then went back for Soto, whose leg was pinned. Wells was half-conscious, bleeding from a gash on his head. Marcus carried him to cover, then held the line until air support arrived. 6 men lived because of him. No medals, no speeches, just silence and survival. That was the bond. Back in the boardroom, Caldwell regained his composure, or tried to. "This is a private meeting," he snapped. "You have no business here. Security, get them out." One guard took a step, but Javier Meeks, lean and wiry, raised a hand. "I wouldn't," he said, his tone casual but deadly. The guard froze. Meeks's eyes locked on Caldwell. "You don't get to dismiss Marcus like he's nothing. You don't know what he's worth." Caldwell sneered. "Worth? He's a contractor who overreached. This deal's too big for him. End of story." Marcus spoke, his voice cutting through the room. "The deal's not the issue, Caldwell. You made that clear. It's about me being here at all. Say it again for them." He nodded toward the SEALs, his eyes never leaving Caldwell's. The CEO's jaw worked, but he didn't repeat the words. Peterson, the balding executive, cleared his throat. "Victor, maybe we should reconsider. Ellison's proposal is solid. The data checks out." "Shut up, Peterson," Caldwell hissed. He turned to Marcus. "You think your friends scare me? This is my company. My rules." Creed smiled, a cold, dangerous thing. "Rules? Let's talk about rules. You just admitted to discriminating against a man who's proven he's the best in this room. That's not a rule. That's a lawsuit. And trust me, we've got the resources to make it hurt." The executives shifted, whispers rippling around the table. The guards looked at each other, unsure. Marcus stood now, his presence towering despite his calm. "I don't need a lawsuit," he said. "I need you to understand what you're losing. Not just my deal, your credibility, your company's future. You think this room's the end of it? It's not." Caldwell's face twisted. "You're nobody, Ellison. You're out. Done." That's when Zachary Wells stepped forward, pulling a phone from his pocket. "Nobody? Funny. I've got a contact at the Dallas Morning News who'd love to hear about Sterling Tech CEO tanking $1 million deal over personal bias. One call, and your stock's in the dirt by tomorrow." The room went dead silent. Caldwell's eyes widened, but before he could respond, the boardroom doors opened again. This time, it was a woman in a sharp blazer, Claire Hensley, Sterling's general counsel. She'd been listening from the adjacent office. "Victor," she said, her voice icy, "we need to talk. Now." Claire Hensley didn't look at Marcus or the SEALs as she strode to the head of the table. Her heels clicked like a metronome, each step a warning. She placed a tablet in front of Caldwell, its screen glowing with what looked like legal documents. "You've got 2 minutes to explain why I shouldn't escalate this to the board," she said, her voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. Caldwell's bravado cracked. "Escalate what? This is my call. I run this company. Not if you're exposing us to a discrimination lawsuit." Hensley shot back. "You admitted on record that you're rejecting Ellison's deal because of his fit. That's a violation of federal law, Victor. And with witnesses," she glanced at the SEALs, then the executives, "you've put Sterling in a very bad position." Marcus watched, his face unreadable. He hadn't wanted it to come to this. A legal battle, a public spectacle. He'd wanted the deal, the chance to prove himself on merit. But Caldwell's words had burned, not because they were new, but because they were so familiar. He'd heard them in different forms his whole life, in job interviews, in officer training, even on the streets of his old neighborhood. "You don't belong" wasn't just words, it was a system. Creed leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching Hensley dismantle Caldwell's defenses. The other SEALs spread out, their presence a silent reminder of the stakes. Javier Meeks caught Marcus's eye and gave a small nod, the kind that said, "We've got you." Marcus returned it, his mind flashing to Lena. She'd always told him, "Don't let them dim your light, Marcus. Shine anyway." He was trying. Hensley turned to Marcus. "Mr. Ellison, I apologize for what's transpired here. Your proposal is under review, and I assure you, it will be judged on its merits. Can we discuss this further in private?" Marcus nodded, but his eyes stayed on Caldwell. "I appreciate that, Miss Hensley, but I want it clear, I'm not here for pity. I'm here because my work speaks for itself." "It does," Peterson interjected, ignoring Caldwell's glare. "I've reviewed the numbers. Your AI integration could save us millions long-term. We'd be fools to pass." Caldwell slammed a hand on the table. "This is insubordination. I'm the CEO, not for long," Hensley said quietly. She tapped her tablet. "I've already notified the board chair. They're convening an emergency meeting this afternoon. Your comments today, Victor, are a liability we can't afford." The executives gasped. Caldwell's face went pale. The guards, sensing the shift, stepped back toward the door. Marcus felt a strange mix of vindication and exhaustion. He hadn't come for a fight, but he'd won one anyway. Not with fists, but with the truth. Creed spoke, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Marcus, you good?" It wasn't just a question. It was a reminder. Marcus wasn't alone, and he never would be. "I'm good," Marcus said, his voice steady. He turned to Hensley. "I'll meet with you. But this deal goes through on my terms, or I walk." Hensley nodded. "Understood. Let's step into my office." As Marcus moved to follow her, the SEALs fell in behind him, a quiet, unbreakable line. Caldwell stood frozen, watching his empire crack. The executives whispered, some already pulling out phones, likely texting colleagues about the fallout. The boardroom, once a symbol of power, now felt like a cage. Outside the boardroom, in a sleek conference room down the hall, Marcus sat across from Hensley. The SEALs waited outside, their presence a silent shield. Hensley slid a revised contract across the table. "This incorporates your full proposal," she said. "No changes. We'd like to move forward immediately." Marcus scanned the document, his eyes catching the key figures. $1 million upfront with performance bonuses. It was everything he'd worked for. But his mind wasn't on the money. It was on Amara, on Lena, on the men standing outside who dropped everything to be here. "How do I know this isn't damage control?" he asked. Hensley met his gaze. "You don't. But I'm staking my reputation on this. Caldwell's actions don't represent Sterling. The board's already discussing his termination. Your deal is safe." Marcus nodded, signing the contract with a steady hand. "For the record," he said, "I didn't bring them." He tilted his head toward the door where the SEALs waited. "They came because they know what loyalty means." Hensley smiled faintly. "I believe it, and I'm glad they did." Back in the hallway, Marcus rejoined the SEALs. Creed clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't need us, but we weren't missing this." Marcus chuckled, the first real laugh he'd had all day. "How'd you even know I was here?" Javier grinned. "Soto's cousin works security downstairs. Heard your name, saw the guards get called, put two and two together. We were in town for a reunion. Timing's a funny thing." Marcus shook his head, marveling. "You're all crazy." "Nah, well said. We're family." They walked to the elevator together, 6 men who'd faced death and now faced a different kind of war. One fought with words, presence, and unbreakable bonds. As the doors closed, Marcus felt Lena's photo against his chest. He'd done it. For her, for Amara, for himself. That evening, Marcus pulled into his driveway, the Ford's engine rumbling softly. Amara ran out the front door, her braids bouncing, her smile wide. "Dad, did you get it?" she asked, throwing her arms around him. Marcus hugged her tight, the contract folder in his hand. "Yeah, baby girl, we got it." Inside, over a dinner of Lena's old gumbo recipe, Marcus told Amara the story. Not the ugly parts, but the truth that mattered. "Some people tried to stop me," he said, "but I had friends who wouldn't let that happen. And I had you and Mom in my heart. Amara's eyes shone. You're like a superhero, Dad. Nah, Marcus said, smiling. Just a man who knows what he's fighting for. Later, as Amara slept, Marcus sat on the porch, the Dallas skyline faint in the distance. His phone buzzed, a group text from SEALs. Creed had sent a photo from their Kandahar days, all of them dusty and grinning after that hellish convoy. Still got your back, the caption read. Marcus typed back, always. The next morning, the Dallas Morning News ran a headline. Sterling Tech CEO ousted amid discrimination scandal. Caldwell was gone. The deal was Marcus's, and the city was talking, not about a fight, but about a man who stood tall and the brothers who stood with him. Marcus Ellison didn't shout his victory from the rooftops. He didn't need to. The contract launched his firm into a new league, securing Amara's future and honoring Lena's memory. The SEALs went back to their lives, but their bond with Marcus grew stronger, a silent promise that stretched beyond time and distance. In Dallas, people whispered about the day 6 men walked into a boardroom and changed everything. Not with violence, but with loyalty, dignity, and the kind of strength that doesn't need a voice to be heard. For Marcus, it wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving himself right. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to know what true strength looks like. Join us at Narratives of Black Struggles for more stories that shine a light on resilience and justice.